Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a patron-only episode of Deep Fat Fried, one of the greatest podcasts ever. Scratch that, the greatest podcast
and you know what?
ever.
This episode we're going to try really hard because you guys are fucking patrons. Fuck those plebs, those worthless little fucking fucks.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you.
They don't give a shit.
On a
Fuck
normal
'em.
show, on a
Fuck
normal
'em.
show, on a normal show, 2% effort. 2% effort.
Oh, me, it's 1%.
On a show like this, 5% effort. Boom.
That's
bringing it up to
I can get behind
5.
that.
Dude,
fucking
Paul on the non-paying shows like Weekend at Bernie's, dude. He's barely even alive, dude. It don't even fucking matter to Paul. Paul's like, oh, am I being paid for this?
Half the time when you see Paul even moving during a regular show, it's just me jiggling his chair.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, because fuck them, they're not chipped in on this, are they?
We're just like politicians, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Look, you might vote for us by giving us your viewership, but if you really want to own our asses, you got to fucking come up with a little money, because we're basically whores, right? I mean, we're all whores here. Yeah.
Speak for yourself, TJ.
Yeah.
My record speaks for itself, TJ. I've never accepted any dirty money, TJ.
I'm pure.
None.
Pure as the driven snow.
TJ, so if we actually hit that fucking our Big Chief goal yet?
Well, we're going to hit it. You want me to check?
Yeah, let's just check. I mean,
I'll check it. Fuck it. I don't give a
Patrons
fuck.
are gonna be excited if they want to fucking.
It was so close.
They want to come out to Gadsden.
Patreon coming
Alabama.
to Gadsden. 3997.
Oh,
3 more
man.
to go.
3 patrons to
And
go.
the trip to Gadsden is on.
3 more patrons to go. Then we are Gadsden bound. The most unhealthy town in America. The highest mortality rate in America. The lowest life expectancy
I think
town.
we're gonna try to do a
We're going to see what they eat.
Now, are we just gonna record our trip? Or are we gonna do like a live stream on the road or something?
I don't know. We're gonna figure that out once we hit it.
But
when we hit it, we'll figure that out.
I mean, I wouldn't see any reason why we couldn't do a live stream from the road.
that's what I was thinking.
live stream. We got to get some equipment
For the
so we can mount the camera on the dash and stuff.
Pish
Yeah.
posh, TJ.
You know?
Pish posh.
Posh. Why?
Pish posh, TJ.
Seems like a good idea.
Pishity posh.
Pish posh,
Oh.
TJ.
Well, I guess when you put it that way, fuck, I don't even know anymore.
See?
You made me lose confidence with those pishes and poshes.
You can pish posh something.
You know what?
into total
Honestly,
irrelevance.
I'll be honest with you. The pish.
Uh-huh.
I mean, when you said pish, I was like, who gives a fuck?
Right.
But then immediately you followed with posh, I was like, oh fuck.
It's all about the posh.
I mean, you need the
Gotta hit the
pish for the
posh.
rhythm.
Right.
You need the pish for the
But
posh.
the posh is where the sting is.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
pish sets up the sting. Yeah.
Pish, posh.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy shit.
Yep.
That's brutal, dude. Let's see. Let's see if we got a new patron in the fucking time we were pish poshing.
Did we, TJ?
I don't know.
Please
Did we?
tell me we did, TJ.
We did not.
Damn it.
What the fuck is wrong with you people? Well, I
Well,
guess
not
none of
these
you-
people. They're
Yeah,
all here
they're
already.
good.
Whoa, TJ, apologize to this audience.
Yeah,
immediately.
apologize.
Well, I'm
to
talking
these
to
people.
whoever's watching a pirated copy of this.
Oh, okay, well, fair enough,
yeah.
fair enough.
You know, the stupid, because we know you're watching this, you pirating
Fucking
piece of
You
shit.
know
Pirate
what?
piece
If you're
of
watching
shit.
this and you're not a patron, pish posh.
Posh, pish, pish,
Pish posh,
Look, TJ's
motherfucker.
fucking pissed right now.
pish, pish, posh, posh.
He's a man of fucking principle.
I see you over there
You're
in the
fucking
glow
pissed.
of your monitor watching this on a pirated link that you got from somebody. Pish posh, sir.
Pish, posh.
But if you're one of the good
Posh pish.
paying members who I also see out there, posh pish to you.
Posh, pish
Posh, pish.
is a good
Posh
thing.
Pish, posh pish.
Posh, pish. That's good. Pish,
Yes.
posh,
DFF.
bad.
Number one. It says it right there. Number one. Where?
So,
Right
So,
there.
Paul, I gave you. I did the Elizabeth Warren episode, and we weren't sure what we were going to do for this Friday episode because we're actually going to sit down a little bit later after the show and figure out our schedule.
Right.
But we weren't sure what to do this week, and you said, "Well, why don't we did Elizabeth Warren? Why don't we just continue the political thing?" And
Right.
we thought maybe we'd do Tulsi Gabbard and shit.
We had a lot of candidates
blah.
recently announced, so
Ultimately, we decided on doing Kamala Harris.
well,
and
she is the front runner
according to
CNN.
right here. Yeah, you see her there.
The CNN
And
political
she's been
power
on the
rankings.
top of that list. You were saying, TJ, forever, right?
Forever. It's been at least, I mean, like since January she's been on the top, and for no reason. Like there's no poll that supports that. There's really no hard data to back it up. It's just CNN has decided that she's the top.
She's the one.
She's the tops.
She's the one.
Dude, old Uncle Joe's number 2, Beto 3, Warren 4, who we already covered, Cory Booker 5, Bernie Sanders 6. Come on.
Has Beto even announced?
No.
No, but he's gonna.
He's going to announce. It's
Okay.
obvious.
Well,
he's obviously been preparing for it.
Before I did the research for this,
Biden
I knew
hasn't announced
very
either.
little about Kamala Harris, other than the fact that she was the California Attorney General
Right.
for a while in the 90s.
You're Attorney General, and you were the
Or no, it was actually the 2000s. But
2011.
yeah. So she was So I was there while she was Attorney General.
Under her thumb, Paul.
Under her thumb.
Now, the reason that I wanted to give her to you is because from what I've heard about her, she is from what I heard about her before we ever did this episode, and I hadn't done deep, extensive research.
So
or
you
anything,
knew about her.
but I'd heard some really bad things.
Well-
And I figured that if anyone was going to sniff out her corruption, it'd be you. So let me just ask you, I don't, without any spoilers, obviously, but like, is she the evil bitch that I've heard about, or is that kind of being played up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, TJ. She is.
Oh my goodness.
Kamala Harris was born on October 20th, 1964, to a black Stanford University professor and a Tamil Indian physician mother.
Whoa,
That's the wrong kind of Indian.
Whoa,
but
whoa,
okay.
whoa, Paul.
What?
Wrong Indian.
Is that the wrong kind of
What?
Indian?
Wrong Indian, dude.
Is she she's an Indian, right?
As
The wrong- what?
TJ would say, not a casino Indian, a convenience store.
Oh, gosh, man. Wow.
TJ is a racist,
I feel
of
like a
course.
buffoon.
Not feathers, dude. Dots, dude.
Oh, okay. Got it. Kamala Devi Harris was raised in San Francisco's East Bay,
Okay.
in Oakland, actually,
Oh.
where she attended public schools, worshipped at black churches, and lived in predominantly African American communities, TJ.
Okay.
Her immersion in African American culture did not prevent her from being exposed to Indian culture, though. Her mother would take her to Hindu temples to worship, and moreover, Harris was no stranger to India, having visited the subcontinent on several occasions. She is a rainbow human being, if ever there was one, TJ.
Yeah.
Half black,
Half
Indian.
Wow.
1 foot in one culture, with her father deeply rooted in the church and the black struggle for independence. 1 foot in her mother's culture, TJ.
Wow. Yeah.
Kind of the broad-minded person that you'd want running the country, right?
I
You would
guess
think?
so. Yeah. Sounds pretty impressive.
Yeah, she's gotten a lot of comparisons, I guess, to President Barack Obama because of her biracial
Right.
background. But it says here that although Obama sometimes struggled with identity issues, according to his memoirs, Harris evidently didn't experience those growing pains.
Right.
She was pretty secure in who she was from the get-go,
I mean,
apparently.
on the left, she kind of looks like a little Obama. If you told me that was Obama, I might believe it.
Yeah, kind of.
This is Obama as a baby.
After graduating from high school, Harris left the East Bay to attend Howard University, a historically black academic institution. So, kept right on going. She earned a bachelor's degree from Howard in 1986, then returned to the Bay Area in Northern California. Upon her return, she enrolled at Hastings College of the Law. She earned her law degree. Following that, Harris proceeded to leave her mark on the legal area of San Francisco. So she quickly started to climb up the legal ladder. There was a little bit of controversy
Was there?
in her early career when she was, an appointee of a city supervisor in San Francisco named Willie Brown.
Here's an article about it.
Yeah. Go ahead and read it for us, TJ.
Okay, so this is from the Los Angeles Times in November 29th, 1994. So this is quite a while ago when she's just starting out in her legal career. 2 more Brown associates get well-paid posts. Government, the speaker this is a terrible headline.
Yeah.
The speaker appoints his frequent companion and longtime friend to state boards as his hold on his powerful position wanes. Sacramento, Assembly Speaker Willie Brown continued his rush to hand out patronage jobs while he retains his powerful post, has given high-paying appointments to his former law associate and a former Alameda County prosecutor who is Brown's frequent companion. they're insinuating a sexual relationship.
I mean,
here,
they come
yes.
out right and state it.
Oh, do they? Okay. Brown exercising his power even as his speakership seems near an end. So this guy's embattled at this point, I'm
Yes.
guessing. Named attorney Kamala Harris to the California Medical Assistance Commission, a job that pays $72,000 a year. That's 1994 money.
Yeah, that's a hefty sum of money even today to
Scotty,
make yearly.
Scotty, maybe you could figure that out real quick with that.
What is that in today's
what that is in
bucks?
today's dollars.
Okay.
Harris, a former deputy district attorney in Alameda County, was described by several people at the Capitol as Brown's girlfriend. In March, San Francisco Chronicle columnist Herb Cain called her the speaker's new steady. Harris declined to be interviewed Monday, and Brown's spokeswoman did not return phone calls. Harris accepted the appointment last week after serving 6 months as Brown's appointee in the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board, which pays $97,000, whatever.
So basically, the cumulative rate of inflation from 1994 to 2019 would be so at that time it'd be $72,000. Now you'd be looking at $122,289.
Wow.
All right, so we're talking about
Six-figure salary.
Yeah, we're talking about today making 122. So, and this is a position now
With full benefits too,
right,
of course.
and
So,
it's a government job, so it's of course
there's
very
a California pension fund.
Right.
Now, there's not a lot about this out there. I found this one little article about it, and I couldn't find anything with her talking about it or refuting it. Nobody seems to ask her about it, and I don't really know that there's anything here.
Yeah,
it's an insinuation that she might have had a relationship with this guy. Wikipedia felt strong enough to say that it was indeed a relationship at one point.
right, and it looks here. I mean, it looks here that it's pretty well known. If it's not outright out there, it's an open secret that this is happening.
And it says like right there, Harris accepted the appointment last week after serving 6 months as Brown's appointee to the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board, which pays $97,088 a year.
So she was making more like
I mean-
almost $200K before.
I mean, so
she's just hopping around these
Yeah.
committees.
Well, it said she resigned from the unemployment board and was replaced, so she actually took a decrease in pay, but
Yeah.
maybe it's a
It
more
was
powerful
probably
position.
it was probably something that positioned her better for her future because, like Elizabeth Warren, who we covered at the beginning of this week, her life has that drumbeat about it of constant climb. I'm up, and up, and eventually she managed to climb her way all the way to the very, very powerful position in California and nationally of San Francisco District Attorney. The top cop in the Bay Area, a huge position for her. A very politically, it's a landmine of a political
Right,
job.
because you're talking about the one state, maybe not the one state, but one of the states in America that's big enough to be its own country. It's that big of a state with that big of an economy where it's like a heavy hitter, not just
Right.
as part of America, but on its own.
California is one of the few states in the union that, if it separated from the United States, could function as its own self-sufficient economy in the world.
Yes.
And it is politically torn. It's thought to be a huge liberal bastion, but that's not true. It has a huge conservative movement in it, and they're very powerful. They've taken the governorship a multitude of times, so it's a very embattled state and a very political position. And I thought, with her being the attorney general, I found a video of her giving a speech while she was San Francisco's attorney general, talking about kind of her vision on crime. And I thought maybe we could listen to a minute or two of it. And
Would that be this week, a conversation with
Yep.
San Francisco District Attorney Kamala
Yep.
Harris? Okay.
Well, Kamala Harris is San Francisco's first woman district attorney and the first African-American woman to hold the office in California. Her new book,
What? Really?
to hold that off. Yeah.
Okay.
Smart on Crime, A Career Prosecutor's Plan to Make Us Safer, offers some new solutions to fighting crime in our communities. So welcome,
Thank you,
Kamala
Bella.
Harris.
Thank you.
We were talking about education over there just a few minutes ago. And in your book, education plays a big part.
I want her to go on a white show and them to ask her, like, what do you keep in your purse? Oh, I just keep a jar of mayonnaise.
Yes. Yes,
You know?
a dill pickle.
Just be the fucking Hillary, the inverse Hillary across the board.
How do you connect education and crime fighting and smart crime fighting?
Well, essentially, it all boils down to the public health model, which tells us that the best way to deal with an epidemic is prevention. It's least costly and most effective. If we lose that, then let's get into early intervention once the sniffles start or once we see signs. And if we are at the point, however, of dealing with the epidemic in the emergency room, it's much too late and it's much too costly.
Okay, so I take umbrage already with her characterization of crime as a disease.
Get in a case of the crimes.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like you can't treat crime and criminality in its many varied forms as a disease assaulting the human body and treat it as such. That's just a bad approach. It's an approach that leads to mass incarceration and longer, stiffer sentencing guidelines.
Yeah, and not only that, but like, I have a clip. I'll just play it after we're done watching this one, where she says something very different about this exact same topic. So
Sure.
So using that as what has been proven to be an effective model and applying that to the crime epidemic, I would suggest to you that an issue such as elementary school truancy, an elementary school child who is missing 30, 40, up to 80 days of a 180-day school year is a very early and clear sign of who invariably will be the high school dropout and then the victim of crime and the perpetrator of crime. And so a lot of what I talk about in the book addresses issues involving children.
So criminality is only perpetrated by poor people. There are no rich criminals in the world. There's no such thing as white-collar crime. Criminality is...
first you truant, then you drop out, then you start murdering.
Right.
And
Because
raping
she's
and
focused on a
stealing.
certain kind of crime.
Right.
Drug crime, violent gang crime.
It seems like everything she does, she's trying to give herself. She's trying to create, and this is actually what she's probably been the most effective at, is creating a narrative that she is these things that she purports to be. Which I think later on we're going to see that that's often not the case. So it's really just her being very politically savvy, knowing who her base of people is, knowing who really needs her to see the support. And what she's trying to say is to a lot of people, especially like the African American community in the areas that she's representing, is like, look, I think this is what the problem is. It's poverty. It's these things. It's things that you're concerned about, and the people that are going to support her. And a lot of white liberals in that area are also going to go along with that too, because they want us to be seen as progressive.
Well, listen to some of her numbers. While Harris was in the San Francisco district attorney position, the overall felony conviction rate rose from 52% in 2003 to 67% in 2006, the highest in a decade. Since there was an 85% conviction rate for homicides and convictions of drug dealers increased from 56% in 2003 to 74%
But you know what?
in 2006.
An easy explanation for that, though, is the fact that she could just be very selective with. So she only tries cases where she knows they're slam dunks. Like, the more likely we are to win, we're not going to pursue other cases. We're going because think about the perception, like what you just said. Because if anyone examines those numbers, she just says, "I'm tough on crime. Look how the conviction
Right.
rates went up." Whether or not she actually prosecuted more people or was more effective,
She was known
remains to
for
be seen.
closing many cases via plea bargain. When she took office, she took special interest in clearing part of the murder caseload from the previous administration. Was one of her promises. She stated that the records from that administration were less than optimal and worked. So she was just, shitting on the previous district attorney, talking about
easy.
how bad they were. Out of the 73 homicide case backlogged, 32 cases took deals for lesser charges or took pleas for other crimes. Officers.
So she was all about getting even if she had to plead him out on a lesser charge, she wanted them to just be she wanted them convicted somehow.
If you got involved with the criminal justice system and you were in her fucking district, she wanted to make sure your ass was in jail.
Right. Even if let's
Both,
say
you're facing 20
you've
years.
been charged
you're gonna do 2 years.
But yeah, let's say you've been charged with murder, but the evidence against you is kind of circumstantial and they think there's some chance you might get away with it. Rather than go to trial with you, they'll be like, all right, you plead guilty to fucking negligent manslaughter or some lesser charge.
and
You go to jail for
do-
15 years.
Oh,
Yep.
probably not even that. Probably you'll do we'll give you fucking 8 years in jail and you'll be out in 4. something like that, where it's like, all right, I'll do 4 years.
She was well liked by officers in the San Francisco area, obviously. She was credited with tightening loopholes in bail and drug programs that defendants had exploited in the past. They also accused her of being too deliberate in her prosecution of murder suspects. So she was even a little too soft for the cops when she first took over.
Right.
They wanted to see her be even harder.
Of course they did. I mean, dude, one thing I don't know if it's a guilty pleasure or if it's just a pleasure, but I really enjoy the show Forensic Files. And what you see on there is a lot of interviews with cops as to their thinking about certain cases and stuff. And, you could just tell, you learn a lot about the police mentality, especially where homicide investigation is concerned, watching that show and just seeing these dudes, like, when they're closing in on a suspect and they find out that the suspect is innocent, it's not like oh, thank God we cleared him. It's always like, damn, can't put him in jail now.
Right.
Like, it's always like, exculpatory evidence is always like, God damn it, a fucking obstacle to us getting a conviction against somebody.
Right.
That's their mentality. It's not about serving justice or finding the right person. It's just like, build a strong enough case against somebody. And I've seen so many episodes of the show where they're closing in on someone. They got all kinds of circumstantial evidence, and then they the DNA test comes back and it wasn't them, and they're just like all like, God damn it, man.
Yeah.
We should, if it wasn't for that DNA evidence, we probably would have convicted him, honestly.
Well,
so it's like, oh God.
If it wasn't for the truth, he would have been guilty.
Oh shit.
The cops are always pissed off about these in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because it has a historically low conviction rate for murder. It's got a very defendant friendly.
You're talking about like a
pool.
liberal
Right.
bastion there.
So the cops there are always grousing about it, and they took umbrage with her. But otherwise, she was pretty popular among law enforcement until one fateful day when a cop was killed.
Wow.
And she decided, as the district attorney in San Francisco, not to pursue the death penalty. And that really pissed off the cops in the state of California. And she soon figured out that she was really reliant on them as political supporters. And so the rest of her tenure as San Francisco's attorney general seemed to be aimed at shoring up support among the law enforcement community and the related unions.
Right.
One of the ways she apparently did that was by covering for the police. There was a case that involved a person being caught with a bunch of cocaine, and that cocaine was sent to a lab. One of the lab people testing the cocaine, working under Kamala Harris, not only stole some of the cocaine for their own personal use or to sell or whatever.
Awesome.
But falsified a lot of the evidence to hide the fact.
The malfeasance, basically. Yeah.
Kamala Harris didn't think that was an important piece of information to share with the defense.
Right. So you have a major scandal going on within the prosecutor's office.
Right.
Wherein someone who is in charge of evidence is stealing evidence and then falsifying conclusions of tests to hide their activities.
Right.
And obviously that's grounds for a mistrial all day
Clearly.
long. Clear evidence tampering going on. And Kamala Harris, instead of doing what's legally required of her, and
lied and hit the bone.
divulging that to the defense, hides it. And you hear... Look, if you know anything about the justice system in America, you know that prosecutors, district attorneys, and stuff hide those sorts of things from the defense all the time in this country.
To me, because the defendant obviously the defendant has a right to discovery. Like, they're not only hiding it. I mean, hiding is a very nice but almost euphemistic term. They're just lying.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So this case was actually overturned on appeal. And the judge had this to say: Harris's office had a duty to implement some type of procedure to secure and produce information relevant to Madden's criminal history. Madden being the person who stole the cocaine from her office.
Right.
By not disclosing information about Madden, Harris's office was complicit in the violation of defendants' constitutional rights.
Sounds like presidential material to me.
So, and this is early in her political career. You know, this is her first big post, first big kind of statewide post.
I mean, at least
not even statewide; it's just citywide at this point.
At least when we were looking at the life of Elizabeth Warren, we could be like, oh man, she used to be so kind of awesome back in the day. And then the system corrupted her, but like with Kamala Harris, it's like she just comes out of the gate.
Dude, she was a turd on arrival, dude. Just a fucking piece of shit on arrival.
She started off as a piggy and has pretty much stayed that way through her whole career.
Hey, pig.
I thought we'd take a look at her issues.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let me just.
Yeah, sure.
I know we kind of we were covering the thing about just go revisiting a earlier point before we get too far past it. You were covering the thing about her talking about how the best medicine against crime is prevention, right? It's you got to get them. You got to notice the warning signs when they're young. Now you took issue with that, but I think that position is a little bit more enlightened than the position you're going to see here, where she actually takes aim at people who say build more schools, less jails.
Okay.
Which is basically just that's the little saying associated with the exact position she took in that interview we saw. But anyway, let's take a look at this.
We all have these posters in our closet that is attached to a stick that we sometimes will card out when we're talking about criminal justice policy, and we run around with these signs: build more schools, less jails. Build more schools, less jails. And we walk around everywhere. Build more schools. We protest. Build more schools, less jails.
It's like she knows me.
Yeah.
Put money into education, not prisons. There's a fundamental problem with that approach, in my opinion. And it's this. I agree with that conceptually. But you have not addressed the reason I have 3 padlocks on my front door. So part of the discussion about reform of criminal justice policy has to be an acknowledgement that crime does occur, and especially when it is violent crime and serious crime, there should be a broad consensus that there should be serious and severe and swift consequences.
What? So wait, let me get this straight. There needs to be a broad consensus that crime does occur in America. What do you mean? Like that already occurs constantly. I mean, everyone knows violent crime exists in their community. I mean, even the most safest communities in the world have violent crime or some criminal activity that occurs.
The whole idea of build more schools, less prisons was what she was talking about in that earlier interview.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to show that.
It's the idea that dumping a bunch more money into education is going to produce a society that has less criminality in it, because there's going to be less people that are, poor and ignorant and incapable of getting jobs.
I mean, that's clearly the implication. I mean, when you're talking about this, I think it's kind of important to just look at that and say, like, how could someone so fundamentally change their position? To say, like, look, we need to prevent these crimes from happening. Then going, we're not serious enough on crime. We need to have stricter laws and more broad and
we are talking about a country with the highest or maybe second highest per capita prison population. I think there's an island somewhere that technically beats us. But at the
people speculate China might beat us too, but because the facts and figures
secret and all that
are dishonest.
But as far as we know, based on any sort of honest evidence gathering, we have the highest per capita prison population of any country, certainly any developed westernized country in the world, and we have Kamala Harris out there saying, no, we need more prison, more prisoners.
More law enforcement, harsher tactics.
You have to understand, though, that's only because I think that she learned when there was that kind of revolt of support against her that she had to be a cop, that the cops were going to be the ones that this law and order candidacy was the way to go. The promises to reduce crime and stiffer sentencing guidelines and putting away more drug dealers and all of this shit was born out of her trying to suck up to these cops. So she very well knew that she wasn't going to maintain her position or climb any higher than she was without those unions, the prison guard unions and the police unions and, you know, the firefighters unions, which always go along.
Yeah.
You can't come out as anything but tough on crime. And it's cliche, but it's true. I mean, it's because if you don't, then you're whoever was running against you is going to just paint you as like someone that you're just soft on crime. You don't care. Oh, look at this person that did this horrible thing. You would just let them go. You let them walk.
So after her area was one of the first nationwide to adopt a standard. Oh, wait. Well, sorry. She's pro-gay marriage.
Okay.
I was going to skip over the. Well, no, I accidentally skipped over this, but she's pro-gay marriage. So
Okay.
it's interesting to know. We can tell from the issues at this point but she's in San Francisco,
Right.
One of the
She can't-
most pro-gay places in the
can't-
world.
I mean, you can't have.
She can't be a San Francisco politician to be anti-gay.
Right. So this is a story from the time when California had just passed Prop 8.
She's coming out. In fact, I saw pictures when I was looking for pictures of her marching in gay parades
Right.
and shit.
So she's actually remained very consistent on that point. If it's an important thing to you that you have a candidate that is a strong tradition of pro LGBTQ rights, she definitely has that.
she's got that.
Well, there you go.
If you're a single issue voter and that's all that matters, then I guess she's got that.
At least from her public life.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So after her district was one of the first to adopt nationwide body cams for police officers.
Or district-wide.
District-wide, sorry. She came out against nationwide body cams in a strange position that seemed to walk the line of trying to please statewide
I mean, for someone
cops, you know.
I mean, for someone described as a progressive prosecutor,
Self-described. That's something she applied to herself.
yeah, she did.
And some people have
one of
run
her
with
books.
it, but it's bullshit. It's a fucking fantasy.
But I mean, how could you possibly make that argument when you're not even in favor of body cams, which the ACLU and many other progressive organizations
She is in favor of it locally in San Francisco.
Yeah, but not nationwide.
But she goes this route with it. She says, I, as a general matter, believe that we should invest in the ability of law enforcement leaders in specific regions and with their departments to use discretion to figure out what technology they're going to adopt based on needs they have and resources that they have. So basically, she's just covering her ass. She's saying, look, I did something politically popular in San Francisco, but that doesn't mean I support it statewide. I support the local community's right to choose whether or not they need these body cams. So she's not really for body cams. She was for them because it was a popular position to be for in
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
She's worse than Hillary. She's literally worse than fucking
Already?
Hillary. Yeah,
She hasn't even gone to her next level yet.
Here's
TJ.
why. Because at least when Hillary burst onto the fucking scene, like Hillary's big first initial political issue was like universal health care, when she was first lady. And then, like we saw that thing with Elizabeth Warren where Hillary at one point sat down and said, hey, this bankruptcy bill is unfair to families. I'm just going to kill it. Hillary took at least a little while, like a few decades in politics to turn into the monster that she is today.
Well, I will tell you this. A lot of Kamala Harris's positions are cloaked in a lot of positions that liberals would love.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't mention a lot
social
of
issues.
Standard social liberal issues, but she's gold standard on that stuff. The one area that she shines the worst, I think, in that is her law enforcement background.
Her
and
criminal
that's
justice shit.
And that's really what we cover the most here. But let me ask you guys a question. Scotty, you ever play hooky from school?
Oh, yeah.
How about you, TJ? You ever play hooky from school?
Not really.
You ever skip school? You never skipped school? You never ditched school?
No, I was a good boy.
Shut up, TJ.
I was.
All right. Well, I know I played hooky from school. Me and Scotty, we going to jail.
What?
Well, not us, our parents.
Parents could face expensive fines and jail time if kids miss school.
In a strange move that I can only imagine was
on the
designed-
face of it, this is a bad fucking
Right.
idea.
It seems like it was designed to not only piss off every poor person in the state, but also funnel more people into prisons.
Wow, so a double win for Kamala there.
Yeah, you can read a little bit of this article if you want, TJ.
As of the new year, California parents face prosecution, fines up to $2,000, and even jail time if they don't make sure their kids attend school regularly. The new state law took effect on January 1st and was signed into law last September by former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's a strict law which upholds 3 designation for kids who chronically miss school. A truant is any student who is 30 or more minutes late to class or on more than 3 school days. A chronic truant, any student who misses more than 10% of school days without a valid excuse. A habitual truant is a truant who continues to miss class even after school officials attempt to reach out to the student. Parents of kids who are chronically truant can be found guilty of a misdemeanor and face a series of fines and punishments, starting with a $100 fine for the first conviction and ending with a year of incarceration and up to $2,000 for parents of chronic. Yeah, I'm sure the kid's going to be so much better off with their parent in fucking prison. The kid that's already having trouble, put their parents in some legal hot water, and that's just going to fucking fix them right up, huh?
So they mentioned Schwarzenegger first signing it into law, but it was actually Kamala Harris that championed this initiative.
Yes. They talk about her right here.
Sure.
Harris addressed the issue in her inaugural speech yesterday. So this is her talking. We know chronic truancy leads to dropping out, which dramatically increases the odds that a young person will become either a perpetrator. That's like a talking point for her.
Yep.
It is time to get serious about the problem of chronic truancy in California. Last year, we had 600,000 truant students in our elementary schools alone. She's basically trying to conflate these truant students with criminals, which is bullshit.
Right. Which even if they are,
Yeah.
you don't more jail time is her answer for everything.
What?
So yeah, I agree. Kids, if you're going to have a public school system, you should make sure that kids are in school. But the answer isn't throwing their parents in jail.
There's got to be a better fucking
it's
approach than this, for sure.
With her, it seems to always be instead of the carrot and the stick. It's always the stick.
always the stick.
It's always the stick. It's like, nope, we're gonna fucking penalize you this way because every time a child misses school, it's because their parents are responsible. Like a lot of parents get deceived. Like Stevie, for example, pretended to go to school and would just go and drive somewhere else. And yeah, I guess you could say, well, they should follow him there and make sure he goes. But at a certain point, I mean, if you're talking about 17 or 18-year-old kids skipping school, what are you going to do? You're going to force them to go? I mean, if they don't want to go, I don't think it's a bunch of fucking 6-year-olds that are missing school like this.
Beyond the silliness of throwing a child who ditches school's parents in fucking jail on the face of it, this was obviously criticized because it's going to be aimed more at poor people.
Yeah.
And that means it's going to be aimed at black and
people.
Latino people.
Yeah, so basically, and look, let's be honest, the whole prison industrial complex disproportionately affects black people. So, I don't know, if I guess I don't have the right to say it, but if I was black, I'd be calling this bitch a race traitor all day long.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck her.
So that's an interesting position of hers that, I think bears mentioning since she wants to be the president. What about recreational weed?
Let me guess. Well, I don't have to guess because you told me earlier.
Yep.
I'm against it. Actually, I'm for medicinal. Actually, I'm for recreational.
Right. So
too.
this is an evolving position of hers.
It's not
I
evolving.
was for it before I was against it.
This is the thing that reminds me so much of Hillary with her. It's just like every position is just like, which way's the wind blowing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I feel it blowing this way. I'm going that way.
Greetings, I am Hillary 2.0.
Well, that's
I
definitely...
am Black
biracial.
Hillary.
Improved
That's definitely
biracial model.
a pattern that is going to continue as we go through this show today.
Hillary Clinton 2, bigger and blacker. God.
So
She is a rotten bitch, dude.
here's a quote from her on recreational weed. Spending 2 decades in courtrooms, Harris believes that drug selling harms communities. Harris supports. So this is a quote from her office at the time.
Okay.
Spending 2 decades in courtrooms, Harris believes that drug selling harms communities. Harris supports the legal use of medicinal marijuana, but does not support anything beyond that. Harris's campaign manager, Brian Brokaw, told Capital Weekly. So she was very strongly against recreational marijuana. She kind of had to be for medicinal because at the time that she was in California, it was a hot issue. All the liberals supported it. She's in one of the more liberal areas of California.
It seems like she's just walking a tightrope of
Right.
I'm conservative on criminal justice.
I have to please my local super liberal constituency, but I can't step too far to go wider. So you can see the plan is always like, give myself an out with the wider audience so I can get more conservative as I grow.
Oh, she's a fucking demagogue, dude. She's a complete demagogue. I mean, from the word go, I mean, everything about her is just, oh, what's the popular position in the area that I'm representing? In the case of San Francisco, it's like whatever, political facade she needs to put on there, she's going to put on there. Then I'm sure as we progress, it's just going to be more of the same for her.
To wrap up her time as San Francisco's district attorney, there was kind of a troubling article in the San Francisco Weekly.
Is it this one here?
Yeah.
A secrecy fetish. District Attorney Kamala Harris is going too far in protecting Catholic pedophiles. Was Kamala Harris merely sloppy when she failed to disclose a crime lab scandal and the criminal backgrounds of police who were trial witnesses? Or does she have a policy of, when in doubt, keep secrets? San Francisco Weekly's attempt to obtain her office's files on Catholic clergy abuse under the Public Records Act suggests Harris favors concealment over transparency. The records at issue may contain answers to a question of great public concern that has consumed international headlines during recent weeks. What did senior Catholic officials know, and what did they do behind the scenes while priests accused of molesting children were shielded from punishment? Cardinal William Levada was Archbishop of San Francisco until 2005. He is now a top Vatican official and the Holy See's most prominent defender of Pope Benedict the 16th against allegations that the pontiff has failed to adequately deal with pedophile priests. In San Francisco, Levada was known as the key architect of the church's practice of keeping abuse allegations secret, protecting abusive priests, and punishing church whistleblowers.
So basically, what this amounts to is she refused to release her office's files on investigations pertaining to Catholic sex abuse.
So basically, she probably got some money or favors from the Catholic Church to
probably
be hush
once
hush.
again, just walking the political tightrope.
Right.
So, as you can imagine, somebody with this kind of mind and this kind of political ability, because think about it, from a certain detached perspective, you got to respect somebody that can keep one foot in loony lefty liberal land and the other foot in I'm going to be a national politician land. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is clearly, look, just like with Elizabeth Warren or Hillary Clinton, like, it's pretty obvious that very early on in these people's careers, they had national presidential ambitions. And I'm sure many politicians who enter politics do, because that's the highest prize in all the land, is to be president. And, you could just see that she is a ruthless climber. She's constantly, if you visit her 1 year and you go 5 years later, she's always in a higher position than she was before. The climbing just doesn't stop. It was the same when we looked at Elizabeth Warren. I'm sure it'd be the same if we looked at a lot of these politicians.
Well, you have to look at it too.
Up.
She's a biracial woman that gets elected to office there. So, like, in a very progressive area, people are going to be very reticent to criticize that, because they're going to be, the perception of you is then going to be, oh, you must be racist. You must have some problem with a woman of color being in power. So you have that as another factor that a lot of people are just going to go like, well, this is what we need. This is the kind of person we need to represent us. And
it's also,
change.
And she had no control over this, but it's also a time in our history when a politician like her is a really hot commodity.
It's true.
Female, biracial. That's a huge, like, there seems to be a segment of our population that is very, very interested in seeing more people like her in positions of high power. So she's positioned for that very well.
I mean, I can already tell you that, I've seen people criticize her and then immediately fall under the whole, oh, well, you're obviously sexist / racist. There's no way you could actually have a substantive disagreement with any sort of policy positions that she's taken or anything with her character. It's because the only thing they care about is
the superficial
she's
appearance.
a woman and she's got darker skin,
right?
So they think that's all anyone cares about.
Well, that's the point I've always made about the electric. A lot of the people are very superficial, so it's like they look at what they basically look at the person as, this is what you look like, this is what you are. So if I see a white male, it's like, he's a stodgy old white guy no matter what.
Image is everything in presidential campaigns. So you're
it's
not
Kennedy,
wrong.
It's Kennedy and Nixon for
Yep.
that was definitely the case.
So on November 12, 2008, Harris announced her candidacy for California Attorney General. Both of California's United States Senators, Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer, as well as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, endorsed Harris during the Democratic primary. In the June 8th, 2010 primary, she was nominated with 33.6% of the vote. So a contentious campaign, but she made it. In her campaign for California Attorney General in the general election, she faced Los Angeles County District Attorney Steve Cooley. On election night, Cooley prematurely declared victory. Oops. But many ballots remained uncounted. On November 24th, as the count advanced, Harris was leading by more than 55,000 votes, and Cooley conceded. So he had to give a victory and a concession speech in 24 hours. That's pretty sad.
At least you got to hear both, you know.
So listen to this. This is some credentials right here, just like what we were talking about.
Okay.
On January 3rd, 2011, Harris became the first female Jamaican American and Indian American Attorney General in California history.
Wow, so many firsts.
So she's a race barrier breaker, and the left loves that right now. And
Woo!
so, you know, there you go.
If only she wasn't a piece of shit, that'd be so much better.
So we talked a little bit about her opposition to the death penalty and how it went through some phases.
Well, here you go. Here's this is an article here. California AG Kamala Harris to appeal ruling against death penalty. Now, you were talking earlier about a time where she opposed the death penalty for a cop killer, and
Yes.
it actually turned some of her cop constituents against her, and she never made that mistake again.
So it was actually kind of a ballsy move. We can talk about a little in a little more detail.
Let's do that.
In 2004, 4 months after she took office in San Francisco, a 29-year-old police officer, Isaac Espinoza, shot and killed on patrol. The city's police union was urging Harris, obviously, to seek the death penalty for the suspect. 3 days after the death, Harris announced that she absolutely would not. More than 2,000 uniformed police officers packed St. Mary's Cathedral for the funeral. With Harris in the front row, Senator Dianne Feinstein, one of the state's most powerful Democrats, took the pulpit at the funeral and called for the death penalty. Waves of cops rose to their feet and applauded. Let's see. She held firm on it, though. But the cops were very, very, very angry at her, like I said. So she felt the reverberations of that anger statewide when she ran for Attorney General for the first time in 2010.
You know, once again, I want to say, from a political standpoint, she did the right thing there, because you can't be shown to back down when you
Right.
take a stand. But she did what every politician really does, which is don't back down then and there. But then the next time the issue comes up,
That image of Feinstein.
that's when you back down.
That image of Feinstein getting up there at that funeral and doing that in front of those cops, that was an object lesson.
Yes.
That was showing Kamala, like, you have to get these people to do this for you, because if you don't, you are fucked. You're
Especially
going
trying to
nowhere.
be AG.
Yeah, these cops have all got to be like this for you. And she took that to heart. So when she ran and eventually squeaked by into the Attorney General's position,
Right.
only one law enforcement group endorsed her. And she barely beat her Republican opponent. Once she was in office, she made a point of building bridges. And some of the law enforcement leaders I spoke to praised her support as they saw it. There was a city attorney general named Rackhouse in Orange County that she supported, even though there was wide-ranging evidence that he was fucking tampering with evidence and people under him were.
Right.
And the law enforcement community loved that. They saw it as an implicit, like, she's got the back of a fellow cop. They also said she reassured them with the death penalty. In 2014, Harris appealed this federal judge's
That's the one
decision.
we're looking at
Right.
here. California AG Kamala Harris to appeal ruling against death penalty. So I don't. You want me to read it, or you want to just
I mean, the summary is that, and it wasn't even one that would have required California to strike down the death penalty. It was just, it could have been used as precedent in a future case.
right.
And she made a point, even though she could have let it stand as an opponent of the death penalty, knowing that it wasn't going to take down the death penalty, she thought that it would be a very good political maneuver, and she was right, to win the support of the police unions to appeal this decision. Now, she lost the appeal.
A judge basically said, you can't use the death penalty in this case or whatever for whatever reason, right? And then she appealed and said, no, you actually can use the death penalty, even though she had been adamantly against the death penalty prior to that. But now she's all of a sudden, oh, yeah, death penalty,
and
awesome.
You want to see what the results of all that? Well, go ahead, TJ, finish it out.
I'm sure the results of that were that her support among police unions and stuff like that skyrocketed.
So that's the end of her first term. By the time of her re-election campaign 2 years ago, which at the time this article was written that I pulled for, she had the endorsement of 4 dozen law enforcement groups.
Up from one.
And she won easily.
Right. So the first time she ran, she only had the support of 1, and she barely squeaked in.
Yep.
After she did all this stuff and changed her positions to be more cop-friendly, then she's got 14 dozen.
14 dozen.
14 dozen endorsements, and she's up there, and she wins in a landslide. So
some other examples of Harris's troubling record on police violence include the fact that she opposed a bill that would have required her office to investigate fatal police shootings and also refused to report statewide standards for police body cameras.
Yeah,
right. Well, we discussed the body camera thing,
but yeah,
but she actually opposed legislation that was being, what was it? Did it get passed or discussed or was whatever?
It basically would have required her office to investigate fatal police shootings, which she opposed.
So we're getting to that now. Another thing, on criminal justice, a position that she has taken firmly. So the death penalty, we don't know. She claims to be a staunch opponent of the death penalty, but when the chips are down, she seems to like it. Or she seems to pretend she likes it. So I can't tell you at this point in her career where she stands on the death penalty.
Wow.
Criminal justice reform, you would think as a liberal attorney general, she would have been hyper-focused on that. In reality, not so much. So there was a Supreme Court case, Brown versus Plata, in 2011, that declared California's prisons were so overcrowded they inflicted cruel and unusual punishment. Mm-hmm. Harris fought federal court supervision, explaining, I have a client, and I don't get to choose my client. After California failed to fully implement the court's order to reduce the crowding and was ordered to implement new parole programs, the state of California appealed the decision under Kamala Harris. And in court filings, the AG's office argued that if forced to release these inmates early, prisons would lose an important source of labor.
Wow. So wait a minute. So the argument, she was literally making an argument of not even like it's dangerous to have him back on the street, or I'm sure she said that shit
Oh yeah,
too.
that was all in the argument as well. But one of the
points in the argument was literally like, hey, prison is cheap labor.
Yep.
So she's basically saying like, she's basically pro-slavery.
So some numbers on California prisoners here for you. A lot of them were fighting wildfires in California as prisoner firefighters.
Right.
So prisoners that are not firefighters in California earn somewhere between 8 and 37 cents an hour in maintenance, kitchen jobs. Prisoner firefighters receive the higher pay at $1 an hour.
Wow, $1 an hour.
They're bringing home the bacon, dude.
Yep.
Wow.
So go out there and risk your life and your health forever for $1 an hour because you sold some weed or whatever.
Jesus.
Harris later backed away from her office's argument in the prison litigation case, telling her website, Think Progress, the way that argument played out in court does not reflect my priorities. The idea that we incarcerate people to have indentured servants is one of the worst possible perceptions. I feel very strongly about that.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
It evokes images of chain gangs.
Yeah.
No. It actually is a chain gang. You dumb,
it literally
you dumb
is.
Fuck. It doesn't evoke images of chain gangs. The fact that there are fucking people getting paid $1 an hour to fight fires in America, anywhere, California, that's a chain gang. It's not an image of a chain gang.
Cheap labor. How many how many prisoners are there in California too? I mean,
I don't know. I don't have the numbers.
I'm sure quite a few. It's the largest state. I mean, so probably a few 100,000, I would guess. If maybe not more.
I'm sure it's more.
California prison population. Da 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 da. How many people are incarcerated in the state of California? Actually has a low incarceration rate for America. 120,340 people in state prisons in 2016. So not super bad. It's actually the 18th lowest incarceration rate in the country, with a rate of 331 per 100,000 people sentenced to a year or more behind bars in 2016. So it's not too bad for America, but I guarantee you compare those numbers to most of the Western world, it's pretty bad. And especially when you think about that, when you're looking at those 120,340 people who are just in state prisons, we're not even talking about federal prisons or any of that stuff, but I guess it's not under her jurisdiction. Looking at all those as just cheap labor working for 8 cents an hour or 30 cents an hour, or at the top, $1 an hour.
Right.
I mean, that's just a
And then she
huge
defends
amount.
it.
And then she's like, and then she defends
Oh,
it.
I defend it, but then I don't really defend it.
But then when Think Progress asks about it, then
Right.
I didn't have no control
It
over
evokes
that,
images.
and that was just something we had to
She's
say.
like
in
that.
court.
Gain.
Here's another incident, or a couple of incidents where she didn't have any control. There were sentencing reform initiatives in California while she was the AG that she refused to take a position on, and she argued it would be improper because her office prepared the ballot booklets. A former California Attorney General, John Van de Kamp, considered that explanation baloney.
Right.
So just an excuse for her not to take.
She didn't even
not
want to
piss
take a
off
stance.
the liberals, not to piss off the more conservative police unions. I just don't take a stance because it would be
do
improper.
nothing.
It'd be improper for me to even take
it's basically
a stance on this.
it's do nothing. It's like, if you have two groups, let's say you have about three, like you say you have Democrats and you have conservatives and you have obviously this wide spectrum, but then you have she's in the middle of all this.
Think about the absurdity of that.
Any position that she takes though is going to have consequences.
At this point, she's California's Attorney General, the fountain from which all fucking
The top law enforcement
justice
official.
system
Yeah.
policy is supposed to flow, but she can't comment on major sweeping sentencing reforms and what she thinks about them because someone in her office prepares the pamphlets.
Yeah, it'd be improper for her to even take
Absurd.
a stance.
So she's just a tightrope walking politician, and once again, a cop. Weed, as Attorney General for California, she remains medicinal only. There's really not a whole lot of change from her previous position here. She amps it up a little bit. She starts making speeches like this one where she says it's time to end the feds' war on medicinal weed. During this time, dispensaries were being raided by the federal government in California, medical dispensaries and such. So she came out strongly against that. So she's been for medical weed for a while, but recreational weed, as California's AG, she remained opposed to it.
right. But what about now?
Well, we'll get to now in a minute.
Okay.
One last thing. Well, maybe not last thing. Yeah, one last thing before we move on to her next climb up the political ladder is that as Attorney General of California, Kamala Harris seemed to think that prosecutor misconduct was really not that big of a deal. So in 2015, judges called out Harris's office for defending convictions obtained by local prosecutors who inserted a false confession into the transcript of a police interrogation, lied under oath, and withheld crucial evidence from the defense. The judges admonished that attorney to talk to the attorney general and make sure she understands the gravity of the situation. And they also said something like, she won't be happy if we have to retry this case. So throw it out. Let's see. It just goes on and on. Harris says that as a career prosecutor, she takes allegations of misconduct very seriously.
Oh, yeah. It's just so
Lie.
evident.
Which is why she, of course, remained in support of these dudes that inserted a false confession. Harris has also been criticized for a response to accusations of misconduct by prosecutors and sheriff's deputies in Orange County. 2 years ago, Scott Sanders, an assistant public defender in Orange County, discovered hidden records showing that the sheriff's deputies in the local jails were placing coveted informants in cells next to inmates who were awaiting trial, and for decades maintaining a secret database about them. So the cops spying on people that are about to go to trial, trying to overhear them talking about something that can be used in a case, and they had decades of records of these conversations for prosecutors to dig through. The district attorney's office also appears to have repeatedly failed to disclose evidence from its own files on some informants. Defendants were convicted based on the testimony of informants whose credibility the secret record showed prosecutors and the public questioned.
Well, it's almost like it goes two ways. It's like not only does it help the prosecution, it helps the criminals because the criminals can bribe the officials. Like, hey,
all information, by the way, that during the trials was unknown to the judge or jury.
of course. So they withheld.
Not even the
evidence and
judge
information.
knows about it.
No, nobody in the trial knew about it. It was withheld.
So just completely withheld from everybody. No one knows about it.
One informant, labeled unreliable, helped convict a man who was executed in 1998 for a murder he insisted he did not commit.
So he's convicted on.
So one of the informants she was using was one of the guys that got that guy
Now, that was-
convicted.
Well, we see now
his
why.
conviction happened before she was
but we
in
now
that
see
job.
Before she was
why.
in that job.
But still,
We
she
now-
was still
she-
using
right.
that informant
but
who
here's
had
the thing.
been
We now
found
see
to
why
be unreliable.
we now see why she needs the police support, because in order to do all these shady deals, the police have to be basically her willing partners.
Last March, following the revelations about the database, a judge described the performance of the Orange County District Attorney's Office in the murder case before him as sadly deficient and instructed Harris and her office to take over the case. Harris could have conducted a far-reaching inquiry. Instead, she appealed the judge's order on behalf of Tony Rockhaus. We talked about this earlier, Orange County's controversial district attorney, while promising a narrow criminal investigation into the case at hand. When I asked about it in January, Harris said, "We're not walking away." But John Van de Kamp and Erwin Chemerinsky, the dean of John Van de Kamp being a former AG of California, and Erwin Chemerinsky, the dean of the law school at University of California, Irvine, have effectively given up on Harris by asking for a federal investigation. Given up on Harris asking for a federal investigation. So
basically,
she buried it.
She buried it, and they're like, okay, well, obviously she's in their pocket, so now we want the feds to come in and do this because she can't be trusted to actually do the job that we
Right.
want her to do.
She just buried it. So let's see. They're just case after case after case of her being on the wrong side of some of these cases, fighting for a defendant's right to have a retrial because new genetic evidence has come to light.
Fighting against it. you
Fighting
mean.
against it, right?
Yeah.
So
basically, just across the board, if the police falsify evidence, she's on their side. If the police witness tamper or whatever shady shit they do, she's 100% in their corner for all of it. She's not willing to stand up against the police, even when they're doing wrongdoing.
But I mean, like, look, she's going with the path of political expediency. She's really not someone that wants to change the system. She wants to work within the framework that exists. So why would she do that? If she goes against the police, like, obviously they're not going to support her office and the thing she wants to do, be that political, be that actually help her make the cases. They can say, oh, the police lost evidence for your case. That's the big case you're going to make, There's so many different factors and vectors that they can attack her from. It's way better for them to be her friends than her enemies.
So she wasn't done climbing.
No, of course
No.
not. She's
After
still
Senator Barbara Boxer announced her intention to retire from the United States
Oh,
Senate
no.
at the end of her term in 2016, after which she would have served as California's junior senator for 24 years. Harris was the first candidate to declare her intention to run for Boxer's seat. Media outlets reported that Harris would run for Senate on the same day that Gavin Newsom, California's lieutenant governor and a close political ally of Harris, announced he would not seek to succeed Boxer. So it was clearly, she was kind of coronated Barbara Boxer's replacement.
Hey, and who's the governor of California now?
Now, I don't know. At the time, it was Jerry Brown.
The guy's name you just read, Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom.
Huh. It's almost like they traded political favorites there.
Yep. In the June 2016 primary election, with the results detailed at the county level, Harris won 48 of 58 counties. She was opposed by Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez, also a Democrat in the general election. This really assured that the seat would stay in Democratic hands.
Well, yeah, if your choice is a Democrat or a Democrat.
Yep. And it was the first time a Republican did not appear in a general election for the Senate since California began directly electing senators in 1914. So this was as much of a coronation as you get in a society that's outlawed royalism.
I thought Elizabeth Warren's coronation was crazy because there was no primary. It was just like, Elizabeth Warren, you're the only one.
Nope, they didn't even
have a real election
Nope.
in this case. It's just like, Kamala Harris, you are anointed senator.
Bend the knee. We dub thee Senator of California.
So
Keep
now we
on
can talk about
climbing
now we can talk about the
that
subject that
ladder.
everybody wants to talk about, her evolving position on weed.
Yay.
So it's been pretty consistent as San Francisco's district attorney, medicinal only. As California AG, medicinal only. It harms families. As a congresswoman, hell yeah, weed is great, bro. She loves weed.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a quote from her. Right now, in this country, people are being arrested, being prosecuted, and end up spending time in jail or prison, all because of their use of a drug that
I should
otherwise
know I
should be
put many of
considered
them
legal.
there.
Yeah. A lot of them are there on your watch. Harris,
Too bad you didn't do anything about it when you were actually in a position to. That's kind of crazy.
So she says she supports Cory Booker's bill that he introduced to deschedule marijuana. Mm-hmm. And she said making marijuana legal at the federal level is the smart thing to do. It's the right thing to do. I know this as a former prosecutor, and I know it as a senator. Here's a problem, though.
You didn't seem to know it as a former prosecutor. That's kind of weird.
Yep. As a former prosecutor, you prosecuted a bunch of weed cases and oversaw the prosecution and supported the prosecution of a bunch of weed dealers and weed users. So why the compassion now? Well, the worm has turned, hasn't it, in America?
Yep.
Most people,
62%
regardless
of
of
Americans,
party line,
support recreational weed. 62% recreational. I'm sure the medicinal's
So
even
look
higher.
who
probably
supports
in the
it when they're campaigning now.
Yeah,
Kamala
especially
Harris.
since she knows that you're not going to win. I mean, at least you're going to have a much tougher climb, which I know that's the important thing to her, is climbing.
Hey there, fellas. Want to buy some weed? I got some weed here.
What's that?
I love weed.
So
I've always loved weed.
she got caught in a funny lie on this issue, actually.
Yeah, this is a full-blown fabrication. So she went on a show called The Breakfast Club, which is a popular hip-hop morning radio show.
That's right.
Charlemagne the God is on there, and she was there. And, of course, they got to bring up the weed. What do you think about the weed?
The weed.
And she's like, oh, yeah, I've smoked weed, and I did inhale. So she admitted she didn't take the Clinton route. She said she smoked weed. She did inhale. She also said she liked grooving out to some music.
Yeah, some
while
music.
listening to weed. When she was in college, listening to weed.
Listen
smoking
to weed.
that weed.
Let's listen to some
So
weed.
she claims that she
Yeah,
smoked
Paul was
weed.
listening to some weed earlier, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'm still listening to it, apparently. She said that while she was in college, she liked to kick back, listen to some Snoop Dogg, listen to some Tupac Shakur.
Snoop Doggy Dog.
The problem is that she graduated from fucking college before either of those dudes ever released an album.
Yeah, she graduated in 1986.
This is a cop. She's a plant, dude. Don't you guys see what she's doing?
Snoop Dogg's first album, Doggy Style, dropped in 93. So that's
7
way
years.
Well,
after.
That's just 7 years,
he
dude.
appeared on Dr. Dre's shit before that, but it wasn't before 1990.
And Tupac, 1986 is when she graduated.
Tupacalypse. Now.
Tupac,
91.
91. So maybe neither of them had put out any public music in the 1980s.
Maybe she found some underground shit, dude.
Yeah, maybe she knew Tupac and
She knew him.
Snoop
And
Dre.
they're
all
like,
them
here you
dudes.
go, here's my freaking demo.
She'd fucking taken some of their demo tapes off some of these, thugs she'd arrested
So
and shit.
while she claimed to be smoking weed, she was actually on her way to becoming the attorney general. She was actually a prosecutor, putting away weed dealers. I'm sure she was just chiefing big blunts every goddamn night. She's fake.
Oh, she's bullshit.
She's a plant, guys. Like, this is a cop trying to get into a position, and she sees, like, which way the wind is blowing. But I'm telling you, if that wind shifts while she's in fucking public office, she'll put it right back to the Stone Age. This is a cop.
Piggy, piggy, piggy. Okay, so that's just a
I
funny
mean, it goes
one,
even, dude. I'll tell you what. If we actually start talking about the similarities between Harris and Clinton, dude, there's a lot of fucking people.
You know
that
what
work for
though? I
Clinton
mean, I
that
think
work
maybe
for
there's some
Harris now.
authenticity to it because she does look stoned as fuck here.
I mean, maybe now she's smoking it.
Dude, someone should replace that pen with a fucking
big old
So
blunt.
if you're thinking like, hey, you know, 'cause
put some
we've
smoke
kind
in
of talked
there.
about the similarities between these two, but I think this fucking bears reading right here. After winning her Senate seat in 2016, Harris gave many key staff positions to former Clinton staffers, including Sergio Gonzalez, a senior policy advisor to Harris, and former regional director for Hillary for America. The late Tyrone Gale, who was the press secretary for Harris and a member of Clinton's 2016 communications team. Kate Water, who became Harris's deputy press secretary and was formerly a deputy press secretary for Clinton's campaign during the Iowa caucus and later press secretary for several subsequent primaries. Lily Adams, Harris, so it goes on and on.
What you're telling me is basically the Clinton machine.
And that was her 2016 campaign, so hey, maybe your 2020 campaign's going to be better. So only if those people, Adam Gonzalez, continue to work for Harris. So here, former Clinton campaign finance lawyer Mark Elias, will serve as general counsel for Harris. Angelique Cannon, another Clinton 2016 campaign staffer, will serve as Harris's national finance director. David Hunuth, I don't know how to say his last name, who was Hillary Clinton's director of delegate operations in 2016, I'm sure not a shady person at all, will serve as her senior advisor.
So let me get this straight. A bunch of the Clinton machine that tried to get Clinton in office in 2016 has now jumped on to the Kamala Harris
One of the
bandwagon.
architects of fucking Bernie over delegates is on that team.
Well, I guess we can just answer the question now. Who was she with? Was she with her? Yes,
She was.
Go ahead and read it, TJ.
Are you in? I'm excited to stand with Hillary Clinton. She has fought for decades to create opportunities for California families. I have deep admiration for her, and I know she will be a phenomenal president. Will you join me in helping elect Hillary as our country's first woman president?
Fuck no.
Are you in? Join us.
Yeah.
Join us. Yay.
We're gonna win.
Fuck this.
We're gonna win big.
shit.
I mean, this is the death knell of any politician for me. Anybody,
the bell tolls.
anybody that had the choice to endorse a candidate and chose Hillary over Bernie is forever, like in my mind, unfit to serve in any fucking capacity,
including
in the government.
Bernie.
Yeah, I don't even let Bernie off the hook on that. That's why people give me shit all the time for not
agree
being
with
on
you.
the Bernie train. But you know what? I watched that motherfucker bend the knee to Hillary Clinton.
In my view, Hillary is what we need for America. It's like,
Yeah,
what?
it's like, what? Aren't you? Didn't you spend your whole campaign talking about how that's exactly the opposite of the truth?
Bernie.
I mean, look, if you
bends
bend the knee to
knee.
fucking Hillary, I'm sorry, but how can you say you're a true progressive? I mean, like I agree
I don't
with
think
you.
you can.
You just can't. I mean, and her campaign is stacked with Hillary fucking plans. Her 2020 campaign is stacked with people that
Well,
that engineered and the architect
mean,
of the
look,
delegate strategy.
Yay.
CNN did this same shit with Hillary, during the Democratic primaries.
Yep, it's just assumed Hillary is anointed.
You know, so it looks like CNN's doing the same thing for Kamala Harris here. If you go back to that list from the beginning, TJ, I mean, she's right there at the fucking top of it.
Yeah,
I mean, how can, look, another thing was, how can Bernie, I mean, I hate to go off, how can you fucking bend the knee when you won states and then the fucking delegates are just given to Hillary and it's like, oh, but I'm going to support her so we don't have Donald Trump. And that didn't even work anyways. How did that work out? Who's president?
It was a coup, dude. I watched that fucking Democratic National Convention.
It's a disgrace.
It was a coup live on TV. Like every time one of these state representatives stepped up and was like, the great state of Connecticut declares for Hillary Clinton, there would be like an ocean of boos and a Bernie chant. It was just like that whole place was there for him. But even he stood up and fucking was like, listen, calm down. Hillary is what we need. But he tried to mend the wound. As he walked off stage, Hillary was officially coronated to a chant of Bernie. That's the end of it. That's the end of if you need further proof that this is all bullshit, there it is.
Oh God. And I love this poll here. Like, yeah, wow, Beto O'Rourke is going to do it. And Elizabeth Warren's going to, and Cory Booker's going to do it. And Bernie Sanders is over there and like, yeah, he's number 6.
Look at me. I'm number 6, but at least I'm still near the top.
He's not.
Yes, I am.
He's not number 6.
To the eye.
And
to
then,
the eye, I'm number 6.
I mean, they got him between Cory Booker and Amy Klobuchar.
I'm only 2 steps above Julian Castro, whoever that is.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, if you want a laugh, go watch Julian Castro's announcement shit.
I bet it's great.
It is the most, like, he does not mention any policies whatsoever. He literally just sits down and talks about the history of his family and then is like, I'm running for president.
It's
like,
a wings take dreams speech.
yeah, it's one of
Nice.
those.
I love
It's one of those, and it's horrible. Julian Castro has no chance. Whatever. Anyway, fuck this shit. So
like Warren, she hasn't been a senator for long, so her legislative
even shorter
achievements-
amount of time. So the only thing I tried to find some bills she'd actually introduced. Now she has co-sponsored a shit ton of bills and sponsored a ton
Her
of
name
bills.
is all over the fucking place
Yeah.
when it comes to being a co-sponsor or a sponsor of a bill.
all the time, all over the place. Yeah. But as far as bills she's actually introduced, the only thing I could find, I don't know if this is the only bills she has introduced, but these are the only 2 bills I could find that she's introduced. There was 2, and they both have to do with mental health. She proposed the Mental Health Telemedicine Expansion Act and the Mental Health Professionals Workforce Shortage Loan Repayment Act. So here's a brief summary, according to her, of what they're supposed to do. So the Mental Health Telemedicine Expansion Act would allow Medicare beneficiaries to access certain mental health services through telemedicine, regardless of where they live, as opposed to only geographic regions which provide shortages, provider shortages. And also, it would allow Medicare beneficiaries to access these mental health services through telemedicine in their own home, as opposed to at qualified originating site, such as a doctor's
So it
office.
sounds like a bunch of these companies lobbied the Congress and the Senate to pass laws that allowed them to do telemedicine.
This one, I mean, like, telemedicine can be, a lot of it centers around mental health, allowing counselors to do these remote counseling appointments. So people that live in a place that has a drought of mental health professionals can still get counseling.
But a lot of these sites, too, at the same time, don't have any standards for those people.
Oh, absolutely.
And then,
You're not wrong about that.
Was that BetterHelp or something? Was the big scandal?
There was a big scandal about. I was so torn on that whole BetterHelp shit.
Well, no, if you had actual people who were qualified to do it, that's one thing.
Right,
but
because I think most of the people that were fucking providing shit on that site were, and it's like, I understand that site should take rigors to make sure that anybody providing care on it has the right fucking certifications and shit. But on the other hand, like, decrying it, are you trying to throw up a barrier between somebody who might like be too nervous to go see somebody in person who's just now hearing about the opportunity to get counseling from somebody?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I don't think you throw out the babe with the bathwater, but I think at the same time you have to be cautious.
Yeah, I'm with-
because you have someone that doesn't give someone actual care through
Right.
through scientifically recognized methods, and you have people who get treated, and that can lead them to committing suicide. That can lead to a number of other issues, like their depression can get
So
worse.
can having them remain untreated with no outlets to get fucking treatment.
Yeah,
So-
but at the same time, then are you advocating that people get treated by people who are not mental health
No.
professionals? Well, then there has to be some regulation and scrutiny.
Of course, I'm not against that.
But I'm saying,
I'm just saying,
but
like,
you just said that there's another.
when
barrier.
I looked into it, most of the because I actually looked into BetterHelp, and most of the
So did
people
I,
I
yeah.
found were accredited, and I was able.
Oh
to
no,
find
I agree with you, but I'm just saying that you have to
So-
be cautious about those things.
I think, yeah, as a consumer, I don't know that it's on the company. Like, as a consumer, if I'm going to talk to a doctor through
A bunch of people
telemedicine-
will skirt this shit by just being like, I am a life coach or some bullshit.
Well, they can't. There's none of that on fucking
No.
BetterHelp.
Yeah,
though. There's no
they don't have
life
stuff like
coaching.
that.
Right, but I'm saying that does exist too.
Wow. Sure.
And that helps people just skirt any sort of mental health professional status because anyone can do that.
Right.
So anyway, the Mental Health Professionals Workforce Shortage Loan Repayment Act would authorize a new loan repayment program for mental health professionals who agree to practice in an area with a shortage of mental health professionals.
reasonable.
And would repay 1/6 of a professional educational debt for each year of service, up to $250,000 over 6 years. So basically, it seems like these
That's
are
pretty standard.
These seem like reasonable enough bills from what I'm reading here. Neither of them went anywhere. They were introduced. They were never voted on.
Right. I mean, they
Nothing's
were
happened with
introduced
them.
at a time where there was, not a whole lot of power in Democratic hands in
Yeah.
the Senate. So these were, token pieces
Virtue
of
signaling bills,
right.
basically.
But I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with the content of the bill as it's summarized here. I don't know if there's some hidden agenda.
There
I mean,
might be.
there's a lot of people that support it. Let's see, the American Psychiatric Nurses Association, the American Psychological. I mean, so a lot of big supporters. I mean,
So there's a lot of and I just when I was seeing my last therapist, he just started moving towards a telemedicine approach and shit, and was talking about how huge it was going to be. So I tend to believe that this is going to be how a lot of people go see their therapist now, and I'm all for it. Like, if you can get a more comfortable experience, 'cause that's really what therapy was about for me. The biggest barrier to it helping me was getting comfortable being in that environment and speaking openly. Well, if I can be in my fucking chair at home, surrounded by my own shit,
Yeah.
I'm more likely maybe to open up to these people and get the help I need.
A good thing with it too is that they can set up these major companies can set up these portals so people can you can cut out people like BetterHelp, so it's just qualified people, and then you can, like I said, give people access to these things in a much simpler way. Kind of cut out the middleman.
All right. Well, we maybe do an episode on that at some point. But
For sure.
So another thing, Kamala Harris, not going to be surprising based on what you already know about her, but she's not too averse to taking money from powerful special interests.
Well, she doesn't want to spend a bunch of terms at this level of power. Her ascent trajectory now is straight up.
She wants to be president.
She wants to be the president.
You got to be an Obama. I mean, look at Obama. I mean, he was fucking 2004, 2008. He's president.
And so while she does spout your typical left-wing kind of anti-corporate rhetoric, this is who she's visiting to get coronated.
So this is before she even
Bend
announced.
the knee.
This is in not long before she announced, though. This is from January 8th of this year. Wall Street executives are hearing from Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, and other Democrats as they gauge interest in a possible 2020 presidential campaign. I'm just going to read the summaries here. Wall Street executives have heard from several potential 2020 Democratic candidates for president, including Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, as recently as last month. Blackstone's Jonathan Gray, 32, advisors Robert Wolf, and Centerbridge partners Mark Gallagly are just a few of the Democratic financiers who have been engaging with possible candidates for president. The revelation of communication between Wall Street donors and possible Democratic candidates threatens to exacerbate tension between liberal and moderate Democrat voters. I love how a moderate Democrat voter is someone who doesn't care if the party is bought and paid for by special interest
And of course,
money.
Kamala
That's what
Harris,
makes you a moderate now.
Of course, Kamala Harris has said she's not going to take any super PAC money, but you know what? She's still courting major fucking donors, so she's going to take big corporate donations from individual donors.
She's meeting with the owners to make sure that she has their blessing to attempt to vie for their ultimate blessing as president.
Let's just go to opensecrets.org and take a look at what kind of senator Kamala Harris has been in terms of, this kind of stuff. So from 2013 to 2018, she raised $22,756,000.
That's a lot of money.
$387. She spent $21,440.
Put on a million.
Yeah, $21,440,109 of that, and she has about $1.3 million cash on hand and very little debt. So she kind of she gets it and she spends it.
But this was last reported in 2018, so she's
2018, so
obviously rapidly raising.
Yeah, as a presidential candidate, she's raising a shit ton of money right now. And actually, she is doing very well in fundraising, from what I understand. So top contributors from 2013, 2018, Warner Media Group gave her $127,000. Raised, I don't know if individuals is a separate thing or if that's factored into the total. It's factored in the total. So from individuals, she got $126,000. From PACs, she got $1,000. So there's that total. Another top contributor, University of California, Alphabet Inc., 21st Century Fox, getting a lot of money from the entertainment industry. Venable LLP, she's getting money from, and actually
it's her husband's company.
Yeah.
Her husband was a law partner at this law firm for a long time, so her husband's company was ponying up about $91,000 to her.
Wow.
An individual.
So as far as industries
donations.
that she receives from, top industry, lawyers and law firms.
Red
raised-
flag. Red flag. Red flag.
She's raised $2.3 million from them, 76,000 of which were from PACs. From retired,
Another red flag. Red flag number 2.
1.2. TV industry is TV and movie industry, entertainment industry in general
Wow.
has given her
Red flag
1.1. Securities and
The
investments,
finance industry.
real estate.
5
So-
strikes. Is she out yet?
She's out. Yeah, she's gotten all kinds of money from these people, and I'm sure I don't know what her current fundraising efforts are. Let me see if I can figure out how much money she's raised as president
I mean, well, she's not president
Well,
yet,
as president-
TJ.
or as
As a
presidential
We're
candidate.
revealing that we know what's going to happen in this next election cycle, TJ.
As president, I mean,
Don't let them know about the time machine.
How much money has Kamala Harris's?
well, I know on her first day she raised $1.5 million. So she had a pretty successful launch to her campaign.
So yeah, report Kamala Harris campaign raises 1.5 million in first 24 hours.
Yep.
So I'm sure it's slowed down since then, but the initial burst of money that she gathered just from announcing is she raised 1.5 million from 38,000 donors, which is pretty strong within 24 hours.
Right.
So
it's about half again as much as she made, according to this website, which is obviously a little out of date, given that she just announced.
right.
So just in the time since she's announced,
She's going to raise a ton of money. But, I mean,
she's well. Look, dude, she's got the Clinton money machine behind her.
Yes.
All of we read off all of those officials that were placed in important that's not accidental.
The actual one Bernie person she hired was behind his kind of grassroots movement to raise all that money too. So she's going.
So she's going after the big money and the small money.
She's going after all the money, dude.
She's going after all the money.
Does
you
this
know
mean
what?
that Clinton's not running?
It could very well mean that.
It is a strong indicator in that direction. I feel like that she's not going to run.
But another thing though is
But who
Trump
knows?
has been raising money since day one. So I don't know.
He's been raising money a while.
I don't know if any Democrat's going to beat him as far as fundraising.
Man,
she
there's
can
gonna be
try.
some fucking mudslinging in this Democratic
When we-
primary.
Yes, there is. It's gonna be brutal, and look, all the stuff that we just talked about with Kamala Harris is gonna be used against her in this campaign.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, do the American people actually give a shit about all the fucked
There's
up
going to
shit
be more
she's done?
scandals and more dirt to come on her too. I guarantee it.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of this stuff, the nepotism, the flip-flopping, the really conservative stances on criminal justice issues, all that is going to be used against her. Whether or not it's
already
effective,
is.
who fucking knows?
She has a progressive facade because if you look at the way she's raising money, I mean, she's saying, we're not going to take money from super PACs. But I'm going to court the biggest fucking Democrat financiers and donors in the world. It's like, come on.
She's a phony, and if I was running a campaign right now, or if I was anyone's campaign advisor, the attack that I'd have for Kamala Harris is just like, we're gonna frame her as the phoniest piece of fucking shit possible,
Which she is.
and it wouldn't be hard to do because she's totally that.
I mean, she is definitely not alone in politics at the national level of
No.
being a candidate with her finger in the air, trying to see which way the wind is blowing
No.
on every issue.
No, she's definitely
But
not.
that to me is a disqualifier. It's like if you don't have a set of principles that I can track, say what you want about Bernie now after he's bent the knee, but he's been pretty fucking goddamn consistent on a lot of issues that I agree with. He was a supportable candidate from where I stand.
And look, the thing about why you want a politician to have principles, I mean, I feel like it should be self-evident, but it's like you want to know where someone truly stands so that you can actually predict what they're going to do. When you have someone like this that clearly changes what she believes for whatever is politically expedient at the moment, you just never know what kind of fucking deal she's going to make to fuck you on something that you
Who
thought
goes
she was
on the
with you on.
Breakfast Club and lies about the fact that her fucking fame and wealth and achievement chasing ass was smoking weed and listening to rappers that wouldn't release their albums for 4 or 5 years.
7
after
years in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, just ridiculous.
If you want business as usual in Washington, if you want that same bullshit where it's like, I'm I'm going to say things to you in public and then privately I'm going to reverse all those positions. If you just want the status quo, then this is the perfect candidate for you. If you want someone who's going to play by all the rules, is connected with all the insider politics, and it's just going to be the anointed Democratic candidate. This is just Hillary 2.0. We've already seen it. She stacked her campaign with a bunch of Clinton fucking campaign staffers. It's nothing different. It's the same fucking thing.
Well, she's a law and order candidate at a time, but like an establishment law and order candidate, not a reform candidate, at a time where that's a hot button issue in America.
So let's go ahead and just take a look at her. We're not going to watch her entire speech because she made a long one, but we're going to look at some of her speech here and
All right.
watch her announcement speech, and then we're going to go ahead and give our verdict.
Have true unity. No one will be subjugated for others. It's about fighting for a country with equal treatment.
What about the firefighters in California getting paid $1 an hour? Aren't they being subjugated for others? That your office argued that if we started to, release some of these people that were on minor offenses, that we would lose access to that labor pool.
But she disavowed that later. So
Oh, yeah,
it's okay.
sorry about that.
Collective purpose and freedom for all.
Except for the people I put in prison, which were many, which were multitudinous.
No freedom for them.
Yay, the empty promise of freedom! Yay!
That's who we are. That's who we are. And so, I stand before you today.
Woo! You
Here we
excited,
go.
Paul?
Milk it. Milk it, you venomous snake, you.
What's that, Paul?
Sorry, I'm just...
I stand before you today, clear-eyed about the fight ahead and what has to be done. With faith in God, with fidelity to country, and with the fighting spirit I got from my mother.
Oh my God! Can you pander anymore?
I stand before you today
Gross.
to
Can I
announce my
pander to as many
candidacy
groups as possible?
for President of the United States.
Any intelligent crowd that was capable of critical thinking would take that exact action. They'd be booing this fucking speech, which is insulting to the intelligence of any person.
Dude, in my perfect world, allotting for some outliers, this would be the response. She'd be sitting in a fucking, gymnasium of an elementary school in front of like 18 old people wearing Shriners hats.
I'm running for president.
But like, no, she's got too much money for that. Got too much money for that. So there's, this giant crowd. I mean, she's in the hometown,
All right,
too.
so let's just bask in the reaction here for a second, okay?
Yeah, okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40,
And I will
41, 41 seconds.
Yeah.
And
of just-
I will tell you.
Kamala! 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 Kamala!
Campaign staffers are going, cheer now, cheer now. Here's your cheer sign.
There was like 20,000 people at this, or some crazy number.
I mean, this is a hometown crowd. She's an Oakland, California native. She's still wildly popular in California, despite the fact that she was imprisoning a lot of the people's relatives that were electing her over and over again.
Jesus.
So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a broad base of support for her there in the Bay Area, where her as we saw, very deft ability to walk that tightrope of supporting local policy, but then reassuring the wider audience that, hey, what happens in the Bay Area stays in the Bay Area. Come on.
Don't worry.
I like body cams here, but when I'm in California, not really. No.
Look,
I'll
there's a bunch
leave
of
it up to you.
loonies. The loonies here. Give them that. They need body cams for the loonies. You guys are safe.
I like criminal justice reform here, but once I'm in California, who cares? I can't comment on that because my office puts out the pamphlets. So.
I'm running for president because I love my country.
I love power and wealth. Wow. I love my country.
What's the next line gonna be? Let's just fucking everyone.
I love my country.
I'm running for president because I love my country. What follows that? Something about how this is the greatest country on the face of the earth, maybe?
Yeah, maybe some
Maybe it
platitude
it
about
could be the greatest country in the world.
the need to defend it.
I love my country.
Doubling down on it.
I'm running to be president of the people, by the people.
She's going with the old of the people, by the people, for the people line. I see.
And for all people.
As the jailer of all people in a horrible dystopian slave state where you make $1 an hour.
And that's if you're lucky.
Hey, at least you get paid, Paul. At least you're going to be paid.
It's like a socialist dream, guys. She's going to give you a free room and board, give you a house, you know.
Give you a job, Paul.
It's going to get
you
you
a job.
Of the people.
For the people. Hooray!
3 square meal, 3 hots and a cot, plus $1 an hour. I mean, come on.
A bathroom, too, dude.
All the shit you could need.
Quality medical
What's the
care?
next cliche? Shining city on the hill? What?
To fight for an America where the economy works for working people.
Ooh, economy.
Ooh, the
We
economy.
should have known
Oh, the
economy was
economy.
coming.
Come on.
Economy. All right, what's next?
Stupid.
Not just the
For
wealthy.
America, where you only have to work one job to pay the bills.
Yay!
Oh, yeah. Definitely a good line of attack. Gotta attack the rich. That's always a definite crowd pleaser there. Oh, the rich are too fucking rich. Fuck them.
And where hard work is rewarded, and where any worker can join a union.
Yeah!
I am running to declare, once and for all, that health care is a fundamental right.
See, this is a position of hers that is relatively new. With her national candidacy.
She actually has unlike a lot of these other corporate Democrats who won't go all in on healthcare, she actually has the sense to know, like, I actually have to do something that's exciting if I really want people to get behind this shit.
Right.
So that's her way of, like, this is an exciting, actually progressive position
what's
to
crazy
energize the left base.
Universal healthcare in California is that Democrats have what's called a supermajority, so they can basically pass any legislation they want in California. But strangely enough, universal healthcare, and even on a state level in California, has never passed.
Yeah, never happened.
Strange.
But I support it nationally now. I mean, maybe not. I will say this: if she runs against Donald Trump, she's the nominee. That's something he's going to hammer to that message. Obviously, appeals to quite a few voting Americans, especially his base of look.
It'll be socialized medicine.
Yeah, look, you want socialized medicine.
You want lines for your shots, lines if you break your knee. It's terrible.
Death panels, all
terrible.
that.
They'll take your grandmother and decide if she should die or not. It's terrible, awful things.
I think
we've
delved in a good bit here. I'm sure there's plenty more.
There is a lot on the plate. Like I said, when it comes to standard liberal social policies and stuff that I think we would all probably agree with, she's pretty good on them, as long as they don't intercede with the law. The law. So she, has been a very big supporter of LGBTQ stuff. Supporter of transgender people to use whatever bathroom they choose. All of that stuff. Very solid on that. Has solid credentials on all of that. I kind of, once I started finding out about her law enforcement ties and the constant appeasement of law enforcement, I really focused a lot of the pulling on that because I feel like that's where not only we, but our audience would probably have the biggest disagreements with her. And I think, like TJ said, you're going to hear a lot about those law enforcement credentials, probably a lot more than we were able to cram into an episode tonight.
You're definitely going to hear a lot of shit on that front.
And there were certainly things I left out. There was a man who was accused of raping his stepdaughter, who her offices concealed evidence in the girl's past of a pattern of habitual lying.
Wasn't she diagnosed as a pathological liar?
Diagnosed as a pathological liar. Of course, withheld all of this evidence from the defense team during the trial.
And that guy's still
that
in
guy
jail,
is still
right?
in jail, as far as I can tell.
Right.
She fought every attempt to overturn his case, and fought to keep him incarcerated. So fought any attempt he made at getting a retrial.
Right.
And as far as I know, he's still in prison. Like I said, I don't know whether or not he was guilty of the crime that he said he was, but
Right. But he was convicted on, evidence was withheld from the defense, which that's not, there's discovery. You're supposed to be full disclosure of any evidence that's going to be presented, so that you can properly mount a defense
Any evidence
against it.
that the prosecution is going to use can be shown. Like you have to have the same.
I mean,
right
any
to
evidence that they
view that evidence,
not even
use it.
even if they're not even going to use any evidence that the prosecution knows about the
pertinent
case
to the trial.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
supposed to be divulged.
So
and
that
if it
everybody's
isn't,
on the same
then
playing
that's
field.
not a fair
Well, it's a
trial.
clear ethical violation of her office's duty.
Well, and
of which
that
there seem to be numerous.
yeah, that article that you looked at earlier, the secrecy fetish article, I think is one of the most telling articles about her, because it outlines a bunch of times where she has seemed to side with the idea that people in power don't need to be transparent.
Right.
My office does these things, and no, you don't need to look at that. You don't need to look at those files.
You don't need to know what I'm up to.
Right, and you don't question my convictions either.
Yeah.
Nope, he doesn't deserve a retrial because we withheld critical evidence that might have changed his trial
he's just
outcome.
guilty. That's it.
Yep, he's guilty. Let him rot. 70-year prison sentence, by the way.
So anyway, what do you guys think?
That's a fucking big fat thumbs down for me, just on principle. The Hillary support, like I said, is enough to exclude her already. The alarming cop mentality is enough to completely and utterly exclude her.
It's easy for politicians to make promises, but for them to keep them is another thing entirely. And any promises Kamala Harris makes, she never intends to keep, or she'll only keep it if it's politically expedient or convenient. I don't trust her.
Yeah.
She's a terrible candidate. She's a terrible choice. I think her past has shown that she's willing to do anything to further advance her career at the expense of others, be it their life, liberty, or whatever.
She's like that Gillette ad. If society blows a different way and goes towards a more, authoritarian, police-centered kind of mentality, she'll be right there with that. Marijuana will be right back on the schedule again. If that's, it's just a wishy-washy politician's politician. That'll take fucking any position that she thinks will get her up that ladder. And this is the highest she can get on this fucking ladder. President of the United States, about as high as the ladder gets for humanity, period. So she wants it.
I don't think she deserves it.
Well, do you think she's going to get it?
My gut tells me no, but not.
We'll have to
CNN
see.
tells me yes, though, TJ.
My gut doesn't tell me there's no possible way. My gut just tells me I don't think so.
But what?
But,
there's a
a
lot.
lot of campaign.
Pull up that field again real quick before we sign off.
Yes, go ahead.
Who's on here other than Bernie that you're even the least bit fucking... Beto maybe?
Yeah, I don't think Beta. I don't know.
I know Cory Booker is a fucking political
Opportunist.
viper.
Yeah, he's a political
like-
opportunist.
So he's basically in the same boat as Kamala is. In
He
my
tried to say he
mind.
was fucking Spartacus, dude. Forget that, dude.
Yeah. Cory Booker
give me a
is
fucking.
no, he's DOA.
As
Joe,
mu-
crazy Uncle Joe, dude.
As
really?
much as I think 2 through 5 are horrible, I still probably would choose them over Kamala
Dude, Uncle
Harris.
Joe's gonna take you behind the gym though if he wins.
Take you behind the woodshed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen back
Play
there.
a game
but,
of salty cracker with
you know.
Uncle Joe. Ugh. All right. Yeah, and I definitely, I don't know. It's a rather unimposing
I don't
field
know.
at this point, is it not?
Sherrod Brown is looking like he might charge up as the dark horse,
Yeah,
I'm
who,
sure.
who knows, guy,
He won't have dropped out in 6 months.
I don't
Yeah.
know, dude. I think that there's a pretty strong chance that we see a Kamala Harris candidacy. It seems like
She's definitely
her political
a
past
force to be
seems
reckoned with.
littered with blessings. You know what I mean? You have been coronated the fucking senator from California. You just get the seat unopposed.
I mean,
no
the
Republican
media is pretty
opposition
much
at all.
doing that right now.
She's already shown.
The media's already started putting her at the top of these lists.
Yep.
I mean, this type of shit sticks in people's minds, and CNN knows it.
And she has already she's already shown a tremendous fundraising ability. So she's.
I think there's a good chance that we see a Kamala Harris fucking Trump presidency. And you know
She's
what? If she's as
definitely
close
a
to
force to be
Clinton as
reckoned
it
with.
seems that she is, and as cozy with Clinton as it seems that she is, we might see a replay of the same fucking election we got last time.
Who knows? It's very possible, for sure. All right, guys. Well, thank you for checking out this episode. Let us know what you think down below in the comments section, and thank you guys for being patrons. Oh, why don't we check on our Patreon and see?
Oh shit!
Oh
Yeah,
shit, dude.
See if we've
dude. I wonder if
passed the
Kamala
benchmark.
Harris sent vote bots to.
Nope. 3. We got one more while we were doing
Got
it.
one. We earned
We're
one
two
more.
away.
We're
Two away.
shows away, dude. If we get
Not
one
2
per
shows
show,
away. Two.
we get.
well,
We
yeah.
got one during the show.
2
too.
shows
Patreon
worth.
is-
I
Yeah,
see.
right.
I see what
See
you
what
mean.
I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah, I do.
No, dude. This will be done by tonight, dude. I feel it.
Oh, it'll be done.
Feel it.
About to
Thy
happen.
will be done.
4,000.
Gadsden
Gads.
calls me.
The
big fucking chief. Be there.
Chief. Be there, be square, motherfuckers. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Rock on and have a good one.